Stephen, you can go there or there, whichever, whenever
Mayor,
you.
you're live.
All right, good evening. It is 5 p.m. Tuesday, October 14th, this special city council meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order and acknowledge that the press and public were duly notified of the meeting in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act. Nicole, you mind doing roll call, please?
Absolutely. Councilmember Carroll.
Here.
Councilmember Streeton.
Here.
Councilmember Ward.
Here.
Councilmember Joseph.
Here.
Councilmember Anderson.
Here.
Councilmember Stewart.
Here.
Councilmember Myers.
Here.
Councilmember Hahn. Mayor Powell.
Here.
Mayor Foreman.
Thank you, Nicole. Tonight, our item for this meeting is discussion and consideration of emergency conditions on the beach. We have Stephen Trainum with us. Tonight, we'll specifically focus on emergency measures that we may need to take before the next round of king tides hit us in November. We'll also have an update from Stephen on our beach renourishment project, and Douglas as well on, hopefully we'll have some good news around that. Most of you know you've been provided a second opinion that we got from the group that the city hired. We will specifically talk about that. We haven't had a group discussion around that other than the beach ad hoc committee meeting. So we will do that at our November meeting to talk about the potential hard structures and different path, if you will, on the beach. So Douglas or Stephen, who wants to take it?
Yeah, Stephen, why don't you sit here?
Do you want to start or do you want me to start?
I'll let you start.
Okay. Well, thank you for having me back. It's been an unfortunate 2 weeks on the coast, kind of up and down South Carolina, really up and down the entire East Coast. Getting calls from a lot of your contemporary communities about erosion issues due to the storm events and tide events we've had. We'll get into that in a second, but first, the update on the core project, the one that's down on the south end. This is the exact slide I showed back in September with a couple of things crossed out that basically nothing has changed on the beneficial use project from the spoil islands. That has been delayed due to some concerns with the contractor, some safety issues and things like that the Corps is working with them to figure out. So we have been told that maybe later this week and into next week, they may start pumping sand back in that 6th Avenue area. They are still scheduled to place around 300,000 yards along the south end with that, but there really just hasn't been any work over the past month on that project.
Are they replacing or is it the same one, or is it just mitigation on the safety, or are they having to bring in a contractor?
Mitigation, so still the same contractor. The dredge is in the Barrows, or in the spoil area, waiting to start. So hopefully, once they get started, it'll move pretty quickly. The second core project is the normal dredging project of the Intercoastal Waterway. That project has now been awarded, and they reduced the award amount on that to about 250,000 yards. It's scheduled to be placed on the south end of the island between 4th and 7th Avenues, and that should start in early 2026. So that work is ongoing. The contractor for that is Cottrell Dredging, and they're very familiar with it and should be able to do pretty good work there.
Steve, is there any plan to put material south to where it's probably needed more, between 1st and 3rd? I mean, that's where the severe erosion is occurring, and 4th and 7th are clearly impacted, but not to any degree where the erosion is actually occurring.
Sure. So we still have the permit that allows us to redistribute the core sand to areas south of 2nd Avenue where it could be needed. So we have the ability to do that. Until that sand's placed and we see how well it's holding on the beach, we can't do much, but I think we can plan on. I know there has been a plan to, especially along the area right next to Breach Inlet where the pipe has been staged to finish the dune restoration there. And we can look at it at that, or closer to that time to see if, the conditions warrant around 2nd Avenue and 1st Avenue.
In 2026?
I'm kind of done with assuming that this other project is happening on schedule. So if it does occur and we do see that the first beneficial use project, there is substantial amount of sand in the next month, then we could start it at any point after that. We'd be looking at about $8 per cubic yard to move, and I think our permit allows us to move about another 25,000 yards or so.
Would it be cheaper to have them
break the pipe and put sand closer to Second Avenue where they permitted to do, as opposed to putting it all the way to Sixth and hauling it back?
It wouldn't really be a cost impact to the city. It would be easier for the dredger to do that, but the Corps is working under environmental permits that they've already established where they're placing the material at, to try to get them to change their placement area. They haven't really been willing to do it, would change their contract with Ahtna on that project. And I think based off of the performance of the fill that they saw when they were originally placing the material around Third Avenue, not very much of it was working its way up the beach. It was working straight in, into the inlet shoals or dispersing because it was so fine grained. So they are hoping that by placing it further away from the inlet, that sand actually works its way up the beach profile and kind of stays on the beach. So that was another reason why they're placing it there.
And Stephen, the second part of that project, an assumption or a fact that it's better quality and a better match for our
Yes.
beach.
One of the biggest reasons why that sand was not moving up the profile is because I think it contained a lot finer grain than we understood when the Corps did all their samples. And so a lot of that material, even if it's staying on the beach, it's staying very low in the intertidal because a finer beach, finer grained sand has a more gently sloping beach profile. So we've seen accumulations out in low tide, but just due to the physics of the grain size, that material's not coming up on the beach. So this other material should be better, and hopefully we'd see a much better impact on the dry sand beach.
So just to summarize, we're going to have 550,000 cubic yards going between 4th and 7th, because the next one's going at 6th, and we're not going to have anything down at where the erosion's occurring.
I think we would look to try to move up to that 25,000 yards to restore some of the dunes and build some berm there south of Second Avenue. I'm assuming that could be done via change order with the contractor that did the original.
That was
work.
if that's the will of council and the direction we're given, certainly make that happen.
How
with-
quickly can that happen?
Well, so I think, and not to spoil Stephen's slideshow, but I think there's going to be potentially the opportunity to have a earth-moving contractor on site as soon as next week if council gives that direction. So it could be, the contractor could be here before I think the sand would actually be
Yeah, so-
available, so.
Yeah, so for that project, we need
Chicken egg
to,
there?
yeah, we need to let the Corps get enough sand out there that we can harvest and transfer back south. But they can mobilize within a couple of days for that project.
Well, we don't know exactly when the Corps is going to begin again either, do we?
Correct, and that's where I'm not willing to make an estimate.
Right, and they're under full control of that. We have no control over that,
Yes.
basically. I mean, we can talk and pray and hope, but when it comes down to it, the USACE project is their project. They control it.
Correct. So the status of the large-scale permit project, that permit has been submitted for a few weeks now. We've been corresponding with the state and the Corps, making sure they have all the information that they need. We're very hopeful that the public notice will be put out this week. They're trying to get it out this week. If not, it'll be as soon as possible after that, but the pending federal furlough for the Corps Regulatory Division may affect that. And jumping ahead, the federal agencies that are involved in reviewing this, I understand that the Fish and Wildlife Service is not working presently. They really are the principal time factor in a permit review. They have, I think it's 120 days to review a biological opinion. So that's the one that if we can get that expedited or in hand, that's kind of the critical component. So we're working on that. There's really not much we can do right now until we get the public comments back. We'll respond to those, answering any questions that the public has or any other agencies such as SHPO, which we've been in constant communication with, Coast Conservation League, any other interested parties will respond to any comments on that. If the government does open back up, we may receive the permits as early as March 2026. We're pushing them to try to get these out as quickly as we can, understanding the conditions that we're dealing with, especially on the northeast end. So that's something that council can consider is, do you have the funding kind of lined up and the ability that if the permits are received by then, could we do a project earlier in 2026 as opposed to the fall of 2026? And the one advantage of that is we are requesting an open window, construction window for the nourishment. If I've spoken with a couple of contractors, if we're able to do work during the summertime period, during the sea turtle period, they are much more available, the weather conditions are much more favorable, and there could be very significant cost savings with a project. And it's difficult to put a number on that, but I would assume on the order of, $2 to $5 million, if not potentially more than that, from being able to do a project in the summertime.
I believe I
Why
read
did-
it's-
what- I'm sorry, go
I
ahead.
believe I read that the time, the work window in the summertime is almost twice amount of time that they can move the sand as in the wintertime.
It depends on where you're at, like the Outer Banks, you just cannot work during the winter. It's just too rough and not possible. Our area, they can work during the winter, but it certainly is much less efficient. So the standby time may be, double what it is during the summer. So that's where your price can really come down. And it also largely depends on dredge availability. A lot of times because dredges are restricted in so many other areas during the summer, they have opportunity and dredges available to do work.
And we have worked during turtle season before.
The first project was completed during turtle season. It started around Memorial Day and ended around July 4th.
And thanks to our turtle team, I think they're out
Yeah,
moving nests and accommodating us very
any
nicely.
work during the summer would be bound by the conditions of the permit, which include some very extensive sea turtle monitoring requirements, including 24-hour turtle monitors on the beach. If it's a hopper dredge, monitors on the hopper dredge. So there are very specific measures that have been outlined. The NOAA, National Marine Fisheries Service, has put together a very lengthy South Atlantic Regional Biological Opinion that has appendices worth of sea turtle monitoring requirements that we would be bound by. But you can still come out way ahead by doing that.
Rusty, you?
Yeah, thank you. I think you partially answered my question anyway, but the savings of potentially 2 to 5 million, is that because we get the work done when it's not competitive with other areas?
It's a
Or-
combination of all of that. So it's competition and just kind of availability. It's their better efficient, or their increased efficiency with better weather conditions in the summer.
So the trade-off for us really would, we potentially have work going on in the summer when we have our high tourist season, so to speak.
Correct.
But we've been able in the past to work around that also.
Yeah, and there are a lot of communities that do that, and generally federal projects aren't bound by a construction window. So the Corps' doing a lot of projects in the summer. They'll be doing them in the Grand Strand this fall or this summer upcoming. So it's not uncommon at all. It's an inconvenience for sure. They generally would shut down about 1,000-foot section of beach at a time, trying to leave as much public access as they could, but that's kind of what you're looking at. And then,
Yeah.
noise at night. And that type
It
of-
sounds to me that the inquiries you've made and some of this getting ahead of it and possibility of savings, that sounds encouraging if we can work that out. I don't know. I know that's to be determined.
And Stephen, the public comment period, so Army Corps has one, state has one, and are they trying to coordinate that? And again, I know we're dealing with the government shutdown, which is the hard part. Are they trying to
Yes,
coordinate that?
they are trying to coordinate
So
it.
to
It goes
speed
kind
it.
of out as a joint notice. So they are in communication and coordinating that. I think the state is pretty much ready to issue theirs, and the Corps' very close to being able to issue theirs. But again, all those things are also overlapping with Fish and Wildlife's review that they have, the formal Section 7 consultation. So that, if we are delayed a week or two with that public comment, it's really not slowing down much progress.
And you said the Fish and Wildlife, they're already furloughed?
Yes, from my understanding, they are. They also, Fish and Wildlife is also working on a programmatic biological opinion, which would cover all dredging projects in South Carolina, that has supposed to have been issued for 2 months now. If that gets issued, that cuts their review period from 120 days to about 30 days. So we're hopeful that that will get issued as soon as they get back, and then we can operate under that biological opinion.
And I think the Army Corps folks, the 18's their magic number, I think, isn't it? 18th of
They had
this
another
month.
week.
Yeah.
Do you have any ideas, Steve? I mean, this is looks like a pretty tight schedule and a project like this, the availability of we heard there were 4 dredging companies basically that are go-to, and I would imagine they'd be booking up pretty quickly if they were trying to get their queue for the next year. What's your prognosis on even getting available resources with this kind of a short timeframe?
I think, I don't want to reveal trade secrets from contractors here, but I think there are companies that would be available and be very excited at the chance to do something sooner than later.
Is there any benefit, I mean, we heard last week, potentially letting them know the window that we're doing it now so that they
Yeah,
they're prepared?
we're in pretty good contact with the dredging companies about upcoming projects, so they're already aware of
Okay, great.
this, but we want to, give them as accurate as a time frame as we can, as early as we can. But until you put it out for bid, though, there's really, they can sit on that, but until they see it on paper, they kind of have to plan ahead. So, again, we can put a bid out as early as we can, with, really the only thing that changes are the permit conditions that are issued that may be unexpected. I think we have a very good understanding of what we're likely to see, but if for some reason the permit comes back and says you can't do work during the summer, then that, throws it off. But we can go out for bid, really pretty soon with a final design, with some caveats that this is all pending permits and the conditions that we anticipate. And if something odd comes up, then you negotiate with the contractor to handle, smaller specific conditions.
I guess I'd like to just add from a kind of process standpoint, a lot would have to happen for that project to happen in the summer. I mean, it's not in our current, it has always been anticipated in our next fiscal year. It's always been anticipated in the fall of '26. So we would have to get final design done. We'd have to get bid packets together. I think Stephen would kind of have to drop everything and start and focus on this, and we'd have to get all of the permitting agencies to kind of align to make this a reality. But not that it can't happen, but a lot of puzzle pieces would have to fall into place. Deborah and I had a very quick conversation about the financial feasibility of it, and she about fainted, I think, at the thought of doing it as early as we potentially could. I know Andrew is here now with the Wild Dunes Community Association. It would be, so a lot of moving parts would have to be lined up to get it to happen. But I think that's all to say, if that's a directional, you all will need to tell us if you're willing to kind of deal with the disruption of having it in the summer, and we can get all the parts aligned, it's potentially possible, but we need to get it going immediately.
Everything I've heard, the economics of doing it, we just heard this last Friday from, the other folks, and they were saying the economics are just not even comparable between a winter and a summer deployment. So I think for me, I think it would be preferable to do it in the summer. If we're talking about 1,000 feet of beach, we could probably manage through that if the price is right.
Good communication.
Yeah, and on the
Also,
back,
yeah.
I'm sorry, I was going to say that, and what's the fallback if we, I agree with you, I think this is a very aggressive plan, which would be great if we could pull it off, but what's Plan B? Push it to the following.
So our plan has always been the fall of '26, so that would be, the dominoes kind of fall, we've always anticipated a longer permitting window. Not that anything good has come out of this storm, but it did have a lot of communication with the BCM staff about, what could be done proactively. It's very much on their radar, and they're very much looking at how can they help the community. So, I think I just think it's a complete rejiggering of our scheduling to make this happen.
Based on those economics, would it be better to wait until the spring, or what, the threat of the hurricane season wouldn't be upon us? Would we have a lull to be able to get our costs down to get it to that Memorial Day to Labor? No.
Right. And we hadn't even had the conversation with the community association. We know that you know, they're a financial partner. I don't know if they would be ready in February to be able to, you know, take on the bill that this would generate. So a lot would have to happen, not just,
I mean, I think in either case, you're wanting to move forward with the bidding part of it sooner than later, so that, you know, it's advertised, directors are aware of it, it's picking the, you have a couple of ways you can bid it. You can bid a project with, you know, multiple potential end dates and say, what's the price for having it complete by end of August, ahead of hurricane season? What's the price for having it complete by next March, you know, March 27, to give them as much window and see which one's more favorable. So there's a couple things you can do with that.
Katie?
Can we, I mean, I feel like we need to get started on this like last couple months ago. And one of the things I just heard is we need to talk to Wild Dunes. Yes, we need to talk to Wild Dunes. We need to get that covered, but the other thing about the summer is that, you know, if people are concerned about the beach, you know, lack of use of the beach, the turtles, there is no beach up there right now. So there's not going to be any turtles nesting anywhere around there because there's nowhere for them to nest. So, and people have had to leave their houses. You know, it's a financial advantage to go in the summer, but it's also, we need to do this as soon as we can. I feel like we need to get moving. Talk to Wild Dunes.
Right, so move along to the recent storm impact and just throwing a very quickly put together ugly chart. Over the past 2 weeks, we've had 15 tides over 7 feet. That's, I'll call it somewhat unprecedented, but not favorable by any means. Just a continued pressure of northeast winds that have been blowing since those multiple hurricanes were offshore a couple of weeks ago at the end of September. The northeast of the island was the most impacted. And really what's happened, you had a spring tide event as well with these onshore winds. And so when you have that much water up there at the northeast end, the water levels are getting well above the protective shoals of Dewey's Inlet, even the ones that are kind of on the Dewey's Island side. So now you have a much higher water elevation over those shoals, meaning bigger waves can get over those shoals and impact the beach. And that's really what's been hammering the northeast end for 2 weeks now. Weather's looking more favorable over the next week, for sure, but we're still not completely out of the woods here. Some photos of that. You'll see the Ocean Club Seascape area up at the north end. We probably had 15 feet of dune recession behind the sandbags there. The Ocean Club building is certainly in the worst condition of any. They've had some undermining of their slab and area there. We are now on the bottom picture, the eastern Portal building. The very eastern tip of that is getting very close to that 20-foot threshold for the emergency work. So we'll discuss that here in a second. Beechwood took a very hard hit for sure. There were many of the houses, the slabs were undermined, the sandbags. These sandbag revetments really just are not designed for a sustained storm like that. I mean, they can work very well against normal weather conditions and minor storms or a quick passing storm. But when you have these repetitive tides over and over, and if you can't be out there every day putting things back, then you end up with kind of the damage that we've seen. We saw the wooden revetment damage that's in that top photo. So that was.
Now, Steve, on this one, the bags didn't make it though, did they? I mean, we didn't get the bags deployed of the 225 bags that we had. Is that?
No, those were not deployed before the storm as well. So
Can we, later on, can we talk about that? Because I think we ought to kind of do a little post-mortem before we get into the request for more.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. That being said, though, even the bags that were stacked much higher than the city's standard failed during this event at Beechwood. Some of these properties added additional bags on their own, and they were buried before the 2 weeks ago, became exposed and failed in those areas. The south end generally held up pretty well. What we did notice is those owners that bought additional bags, those areas held up a little bit better. Where we had our kind of city standard, there was some dune erosion. It was modest. We did see a little bit more erosion on the very southern point. I'll point to it on the map here, but basically about 2 more houses south of where our sandbag stopped. There's a pool there in that top photo, kind of in the center. That area is now within 20 feet. So what our recommendations, or my recommendation is, based off of kind of, again, the standard that we've established, which is an amount of protection that's reasonable protection for typical weather events that we're seeing. You know, typical tides, even a spring tide under typical waves, but not a level of effort that's going to sustain the beach with the kind of storm event that we've had the past 2 weeks. If we were to do that, we're quadrupling our cost that the city would have to incur to try to build that many bags there.
So, okay, we know November and December are coming, and they're going to be probably comparable to what we've just experienced there. Are you saying that if we do this, it's not going to protect against that?
If we do this, it's going to protect against a normal spring tide, but it wouldn't protect against the type of weather that we've had the past 2 weeks, which was.
And I think the forecast for the next 2 months is as much or more than what we've just experienced. Is that not correct?
Well, it's not just the tide, though. It's the weather on top of the tide. It's the sustained northeast winds, and we don't know what the next 2 months are going to hold there. So again, this is a decision that the city can make on what level of protection are you wanting to provide. One of the issues that you have with these bags, though, is if the beach condition is relatively healthy, you're stacking bags on top of a elevation that's, say, +5 or so, kind of dry sand beach or just a little below that. If you can only stack so many bags on top of that before you create such a mound that as the beach erodes out from under it, then you have this massive pile of bags that tumbles down on it. And that's what we see with these storms, is it takes a beach, it flattens it, lowers it, and that's when the bags settle. So you kind of almost have to let that happen and then put bags back on top of that mound. You're not allowed to excavate down and bury bags for your foundation that would be able to kind of handle some of that slumping. So you're kind of working with the logistics of what the beach allows you to do during time of placement.
Can you make like a riprap type, like a rock revetment?
No, the state does not allow rocks.
No, I'm sorry, but with sandbags, but in the shape of like the way that the rocks are in a pile, as opposed
Yeah, I
to
mean,
just
you
a
can
straight
build
up
a-
and down wall.
Yeah, and that we are trying to build a foundation that
Like
is a
pyramid?
pyramid-type shape, but every layer of a pyramid, you're dramatically increasing the number of bags that's required. So what we've done is we try to have a base that's either 2 or 3 bags wide, and then maybe 2 layers of 2 bags wide, and then a layer or 2 on top, and then you're going to have to maintain them over time as the weather comes and shifts.
So on the south side, there were some residents who, I think, went out on their own and stacked some additional bags. And when you look at the residents that had kind of the level that we provided and then their level, the level that we had provided, the water went over, went back, and basically did as much damage or more than whatever. But the others seemed to, they held.
Yeah, for the most part,
So
they
that's
held
like,
really well.
it's like that worked, and what we did didn't. So should we consider doing, a little bit closer to what worked, or?
Sure, we can increase our standard, and that's fairly easy to do. We can.
The other thing to do is to offer, talk about increase our standard, but also offer the coordination of homeowners that want to add to it themselves, the ability for us to coordinate and do it. Cost share.
And maybe get additional-
To up their higher levels.
And maybe get additional contractors? I mean,
Yes.
Is there, if homeowners want to do this on their own, they can, right?
Right, and the city's been working with homeowners for the past year and a half that have wanted to do additional bags at, their own expense, working with the same contractors or separate contractors to do that.
I think we ought to encourage homeowners who have the resources to go ahead and do that. I think most of them on the beachfront do. So we put the minimum standard in, I'm good with that myself. But I mean, if we're talking about over and above, and I saw firsthand what other homeowners had done down there to protect their property, and it seemed to be working. So I think as a council, we ought to encourage homeowners that are beachfront, that properties are endangered, to put additional sandbags. If we can be of some help logistically, then fine. Financially, I'm not there.
Stephen, talking about the weather event, the tides for November, at least projected tides, are not as bad as what we just experienced, but again, we don't know that. But the two hurricanes that came through that we got lucky with, then the nor'easter, I mean, to your point, I mean, that was an anomaly, hopefully, that won't repeat itself at the next high tide, king tide low. I know we don't know that, but, I mean, this was an oddity, these last couple of weeks.
For sure. I strongly believe that.
The last nor'easter that devastated our beaches was in December.
23.
Yeah, but it was December
December.
time of year.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, but I mean, it can come
It's really
anytime.
rare to have like
Yeah.
two hurricanes right on top of each other. You know,
Yeah, and, I mean, honestly, if the hurricane would have just come on shore like most hurricanes and passed through, then you have one or two bad tide cycles, and that's quick. These
Not
storms
2
that are
weeks.
systems that just sit offshore and churn every day, it's just a different beast. And, kind of to Scott's point, the amount of bags that they have at the south end held up well for those owners that added additional, but up at Beechwood and even at Seascape, where they had piled additional bags as well, those didn't hold up at all because the north end took more of a brunt of the storm there. So a different storm may have affected the beach differently. These sandbags are not capable of withstanding that type of storm event repeatedly over and over again without having to come back and restack and maintain.
What can we do differently to assure that, like we I think approved 1,200 bags, $550,000 at the last one. And I think we had we were looking at 75 bags per day being deployed, and something happened. We either got delayed or something, and the bags didn't make it. I think we were trying to get an October 1st date, and then the bags didn't make it all the way up to Beechwood East. I guess the order got changed, and then the contractor was working on some of the private work. Can we, if we're looking to do this going forward, can we talk to Randy about maybe getting additional crews on board and making sure that this happens? When are the next tides coming in? Is it 30 days from now or less than that? We don't have a big window here.
So we had that conversation that additional crews will be brought in, and also that if the city awards, an amount of scope with any contractor, that work would be done to completion before other work is done, at least without bringing in separate crews. I guess given a time frame, enough equipment and crews would have to be in to put that scope in within the city's time frame. And if they had additional crews on top of that to handle other work, then that's okay. If not, then additional contractors would be brought in for sure.
But the city resource is a city resource.
Correct.
I'd just like to say, my feeling is that, speaking for myself, is that I think we are willing to do what we can to protect our beaches, but our financial resources are limited. So what we're asking here is not for homeowners to do something above and beyond, but to help out so we can actually do as much as possible to protect our properties as well as our beaches. Is that right?
Stephen, so 660 bags roughly. If everything's working right, we can put out 75 to 100 a day. Do I remember that right, or is that too high?
Yeah.
I think that's high.
That's high.
With the one crew that's been
Yeah.
working, I think with two crews, I think that would be capable, but I also think that's a standard that we can impose and say, this is what we expect to happen. And if any contractor's not capable of that, then we'll find somebody who is.
Can we just pick the target date and backload it to?
Yeah, that's
just
what I would,
logistics, yeah.
in hindsight, we just didn't do that. We didn't pick the day on the calendar, kind of like we did with the waterway path and said, by this date,
It's done.
it has to be done.
Is that what happened with the 250 bags? We just you didn't set a deadline, so we ran out of time?
That's correct. It was,
Yeah.
we're working at it, there was steady working at it, but it was never, they all have to be in by this date. So we would just change that.
And some of the additional property owners who added additional bags, that work was kind of, since they were working on one end, they would finish that work before moving up to the next end. So let's say it's kind of an intermingling of city work and private work.
I have a question about the Beechwood East area. The critical line is behind those houses, so it seems like that's a unique situation that can,
That's one word.
huh?
That's one word for it.
I know, can we, it seems like it's a much more challenging place to protect those homes, that no matter how many sandbags we put there.
Yes. So jump ahead to my next recommendation, and, well, this kind of follows up on what we just talked about with the sandbags. So my other recommendation would be some targeted shoal management, not necessarily looking at the similar type project that we did last time, but transferring some sand from the shoal to help recover some of what was lost during the storm on both ends of the east ends around the Ocean Club Seascape area, and then at Beechwood. Not looking at building a dry sand beach in front of them that's going to last 6 months, but at least trying to get some backfill in so that when bags are placed, there's support for those bags behind them, and also allow for some maintenance and work around the houses, just to try to keep water from getting up under houses, even with bags in place. Looking at about 10,000 yards at the Port of Call, the Ocean Club area, another 10,000 yards or so at the Beechwood area to, again, try to get some elevation back. Even if that sand is moved from where we place it up at the dune into the intertidal, it's helping keep water and the energy off of the bags. And then jumping ahead to this one's the kind of complicated one to look at, but this is the shoal as of today. The tide was still higher than a normal low, so a lot of what would be exposed sand is buried here. But there's this little flushing channel that is separating the southern part of the shoal in the foreground from the beach. So at high tide, water overtops the outer bar, kind of fills up this lagoon, and then that water is wanting to drain through that southern little channel where the yellow arrow is.
Okay.
And we've seen these in a lot of shoals, bigger shoals at other communities before. Usually they last for a couple of weeks and then they go away. With the size of the shoal and the volume of water there, there's a chance that that channel could persist for a little while, on the order of a couple of months. And as that sandbar on the outside of it moves landward, it could push that channel into the beach, even, kind of down in the foreground of the photo on Beechwood. So one of my recommendations would be if we're harvesting sand from the shoal, would be to open up a new channel in the center part of that bar and close off that channel. We've done that in a lot of other different settings that look a little different, but it's similar morphology.
So Stephen, you're closing at the yellow line.
Closing at the
opening
yellow,
red.
opening at the red. What that would do is reduce the chance for currents to kind of scour sand out as it's flushing through that little channel. And it would also connect the shoal sand to the beach, so now that sand's able to move up onto the beach profile and not just continue to extend south and west. It's a pretty small volume of sand that would require only 2,000 or 3,000 yards that we could add on to you're just kind of filling the low tide beach there, and it's about a 40-foot gap between the low tide beach and the shoal right now. So that could be a component of this targeted shoal management. And then opening the new channel also will allow that sand to move on shore a little bit more quickly in the center part of the shoal.
And you're not going to scour out the area where the new channel is?
No, it'll be a little bit of a gap in the breakwater. You could see some erosion just immediately landward of it. But I think with the amount of sand that we have there on both ends and kind of sand moving from both directions, it's not something that I'm real worried about in an effort to try to move things on shore as quickly as
Is this for the
possible.
existing permit, we can do this?
Yes, this is part of shoal management. So,
And I guess I would add to just manage expectations, it would be a very minimal amount brought onto the beach in front of those houses. It wouldn't be nearly the magnitude of, the last shoal management project we did. It would just be kind of enough behind the bags that are existing there, just to kind of give them some backing. But it would be nothing like the magnitude of what's happened previously.
And we
Steve-
could move a lot more sand. I mean, we could move another 80,000 yards into that area, which would build back some beach in that area for sure. I just can't guarantee the lifespan of that sand. And looking at possibly doing another project, a large-scale project here in 6 or 8 months, 12 months at the most, maybe, spending nearly $1 million to shift that sand around, and that's kind of a question for y'all to consider, but you saw the last project, we would expect fairly similar results out of one if we did a bigger project like that.
So Stephen, so say we approve everything tonight, bags are going in, you can open this channel, close this channel, all that's happening at the same time.
Yes.
Like
Yes,
in the
we'll-
next month?
Certainly, the contractor can mobilize within a day or two to start the sand transfer work. We would probably want to wait till we had a very favorable low tide window for 3 or 4 days so that they can get out on the shoal as much as possible. So, but we would not want to make it last a month. And that much sand could probably be moved within 6 to 7 days.
Because you're,
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, approve today, your project, all this could be wrapped up, say, November 15th or earlier, or when, we got to look at the tide schedule.
yeah.
Yeah, I think the sand project certainly
You
by
want to
then,
press that, man.
and the sandbags, I don't see why that
'Cause you're-
couldn't be done as well.
Did you, what, is this at low tide, did you say, or mid tide?
It's closer to a mid-tide.
Because even your low tides right now aren't low. I mean, they're like 2 feet or so, somewhere in there. So
Right.
you may not be able to get to that outer channel, right? Is that your comment?
Yes, that's
You
my
just-
point.
need
is
some
You
low
want
tides.
a good low tide where you have exposed sand to be able to harvest.
And that is, you're not using a dredge for this, this is just.
Correct. This would all be
earth movers
earth
and truck.
moving. Yeah, probably 3 trucks and an excavator.
So at a normal low tide, where the red arrow is, that would be dry sand beach that a dump truck could drive out to, pick it up, pull it back.
Yes.
Correct?
Interesting. It's worth a try, it seems like.
Yeah, so that's kind of, I'm estimating 25,000 yards, and that's about 205,000 plus the soft costs.
You also mentioned potential sand down at the south end, additional sand that's not up on this sheet, but we talked about it earlier, right?
Correct. So that would be something that would be based off of what the Corps does whenever they do it. For 20,000 yards, that's a similar cost that we're talking about. I don't anticipate that would happen this month. We would want to let the Corps get enough sand placed before we did that. So
Do we need to do anything more at the south end to anticipation of what's coming in November and December? Or,
I mean, I think I had the couple hundred sandbags, that included maintenance of the properties that we had some damage at, or where we had some settlement, so we would patch up some of those low spots.
that was in here? All right,
Yes,
okay.
that was included in that. So I think it was maintenance of I think there were 3 or 4 properties there that,
And it extended the sandbag embankment
Two more properties.
2 properties south where we have a pool exposed right now.
Can I ask one more question before we get on potential remedies to get us to a larger scale renourishment? This idea of geotubes instead of these sandbags, I mean, is that a short-term solution, an interim solution to get us by till we get the larger scale renourishment in place?
yeah, the idea of a geotube would be that it's an alternative to sandbags. It's not a kind of long-term beach management strategy where they're accumulating sand or anything like that. Could we use geotubes effectively instead of having to keep putting these smaller bags out?
Exactly, yeah.
And I think it could be a very viable alternative. They are fairly easy to deploy. If you bury them with the sand, and they're just buried tubes that aren't really bothering anything, they would become exposed when we have an erosional cycle, and then they're basically functioning as a seawall or a sandbag revetment. But they need to be designed appropriately and installed appropriately so that when you have a situation like this, you don't have the slumping of the settlement that's going to create a weak spot that's all it really takes to damage any structure.
But what's the time frame for something like that? If you say, hey, look, I'd like to do that. instead
That
of
can only be
sandbags.
done under a pilot permit with the
So it's
state.
a whole
and
permitting
that's-
process?
It's a very extensive permitting process where you have to establish the design, the study, and the monitoring plan for it. And I think there are some owners and groups up there that are considering that.
Yeah. All right.
When you do that and you get the permitting, is the permitting sort of a widespread permit that you could put geotubes in all areas, or each area would have to be evaluated?
You have to establish the project scope on limits of where those bags would be, or tubes would be placed. And then the state would use that study to look at, is this a viable solution that could be applied to other areas of the
And
state?
geotubes aren't permanent either. They have a lifespan.
They do have a lifespan. They are certainly more permanent than these smaller bags, but they are a geotextile fabric that's UV protected. So, you know,
About
it's
5 years.
probably longer than that, unless, and it depends on the exposure. If they're buried for 10 years and exposed for 1, then they're going to last pretty well. If they're constantly exposed for 5 years, then they're going to take more damage.
How do they compare to continued sandbagging, cost-wise and implementation-wise?
Likely to be cheaper in the long term. The material cost of it is really not too expensive. I think a 500-foot long geotube, maybe $20,000 or so for the actual material. But you have to bring in sand to fill them from off-site, just like you would a sandbag. So that cost is pretty expensive. But comparable or cheaper even in the short term for a sandbag.
Well, just a thought, and I don't know if this makes sense or not, but let's say for some reason we can't get the nourishment project in, and it gets delayed to the summer of '27. Should we, I mean, I don't know what the cost or of looking at the permit or the study or what have you. I've heard it's taken a long time, but we've been talking about it for 6 or 8 months. I mean, is it something that we could do a parallel? It's almost like an insurance policy. So in the event that we have to go through another hurricane season or two, we would have that option in our toolkit? Or is that something that, I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, it's certainly something we could consider. There's no,
Is there any downside to pursuing a permit?
not that I'm aware of, or not that I can think of. Yeah.
Is there a 5-year, similar to any other permit, you have a 5-year window that you need to implement it within?
Honestly, with the pilot project, I'm not sure. And I know there were discussions on if a geotube was installed, would it be installed with the nourishment project or before or after? I think that question is, it could be either of those scenarios.
And it seems like the state's been willing to okay the pilot program,
Yes.
at least in conversations with
Yes, the state has been
homeowners.
very helpful and very willing to do anything that they can to support the city's beach management efforts and
So-
protection of property.
So if we requested a permit for geotubes, it wouldn't nullify any of our other activities until, I mean,
I do not think, I don't think so. I think they would condition any pilot permit to include removal of any pre-existing sandbags
fine,
and that kind of
yeah.
thing.
but as long as it doesn't nullify it, you know, if the geotubes don't go
Yeah,
forward, then we still have something in place,
Sure.
I guess is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, and
The
part
other-
of the geotube study would be to evaluate the reality of, are they buried, for how long are they buried, when they become exposed, do they function, and then how likely is it that they actually get reburied, either naturally or manually? It's kind of the management is more of a question than the performance of them in some cases.
And could we pick just one section of the beach to use the geotubes and see if they work? Maybe the worst area that we have that's cost us the most money?
Yes.
Because you said you have to have a defined area for them to approve a trial.
Yes, yeah, I mean, you just have to tell them what the survey, or what the study scope is. And that could be multiple areas at the same time, but you have to at least put limits on
I mean, if
the
we've got
boundaries.
3 areas that we're just continuing to throw hundreds of thousands of dollars of sandbags at, I mean, is there downside to throwing all 3 areas in there and seeing if we can get them approved? And if we use them, we do it, and if we don't, we don't.
So there's, and I can't recall how much this has been reported to this group, but there is already an effort underway by the property owners in Beechwood East, at least a few of the condos and the resort at the golf course. And it's hard for me to know how far down the path they are to doing that. But that's in our discussions about installing groins up there, we've kind of reported back that we felt like we have groin design and kind of feasibility study in this year's budget, but I think we've talked about delaying that to see what happens with the private individuals who are pursuing this pilot program. So I don't know if we're talking about interjecting into that process where they're already
How can we
underway.
find out where they are? I mean, some of them are here, aren't they?
I mean, yeah, we've been in steady contact with the two organizing that, so I don't know that it would take long to get up to speed on where they are. But am I hearing that you all would like to interject and take that process over?
That's what I was going to ask, is how do we interface with them, or do we just let?
I'd let them
that
do their
run?
thing, and if we want to try it in our other hotspot areas, maybe we permit that.
I think we need to know where it is, where it's going, what their time frame is, how they're coming along. I
Who's
mean,
paying for
We
it?
need to, who's paying for it? I mean, there's,
And I think they're
I feel
trying
like
to
there's a lot
get,
of questions.
I think they're trying to get their arms around who wants to participate in the Wild Dunes hotspots. But I can certainly get a status update and report that back.
Yeah, I know they've asked for proposals from engineering firms for doing the design and permitting for a pilot study. I don't think they have, I know they have not selected a firm for that, but they're, like Doug said, I think still trying to figure out exactly who's willing to participate and at what level. I believe that's all I had in my slides there, so happy to answer any additional questions.
So Stephen, your two totals are 205 and
And then,
What are our
300.
recommendations?
So can we get started? I mean, are we voting on something? I mean, I don't.
Getting ready to.
Yeah,
Yeah, can we,
to get started on this.
yeah, does this, and we've got 250 bags already,
that are already purchased and.
so we're getting 250 plus 660 plus whatever's down south.
And then also, can we start on the work that was the shoal movement work? And that, because I was just looking and looks like the tides are gonna be the most favorable, like, this weekend. Can we get people to work on the weekend? Can we get this going?
I believe so, if that's within the procurement standards, that
Yeah.
I know contractors are ready to mobilize as soon
Who,
as Thursday.
who manages it? You, Stephen? I don't know if you or you, Doug, I don't know who manages the actual day-to-day implementation of the bags.
So we're not under specific contract to manage the day-to-day. We are trying to do that, as we can, working with other things. So I've been down about every week, just kind of checking on the status of it.
I'm just trying to figure out how, like a weekly update to understand, how many bags were installed this week. If we have a target date, and I know November 15th, if we could get a weekly update to council that says, this many bags been installed, this many more to go, so we can make sure that we don't have a repeat of what happened this last time where, 250 bags are sitting up on the street when we got major issues going on down to these homes. So I just like to get weekly update to make sure we're tracking on what we commit to do.
Yeah, we can do that without a problem. So the day-to-day is the city staff with the contractor. If a question comes up or Stephen is, kind of on-site occasionally during the installation and then always available by phone, but day-to-day is city staff.
All right,
And-
and some alarms go off, like if we look like we're not going to make it, so we can maybe do something different. But just, let's make sure we hit our date.
And Katie, that's why we did the city council meeting tonight ahead of workshops, so we could vote and get this in motion before the next king tide cycle.
And can we get a breakout of what the contractor costs are and the soft costs? I think you said there were some soft costs that are coming, and what's, where are your costs, where are the vendors' costs, where are any other costs that might be associated with all this, and how this all breaks out?
Sure, so there's really nothing included on the sandbag portion of that unless the city wants some additional management, from our end to help, do some of the coordination. Soft costs for the truck hauling, that's something I feel like you would want us down here a couple of times to just help direct the contractor on where to obtain the sand from, where to place it, do some surveys. 10% probably of that. If
Do we really need that if the contractor knows what they're doing, or, I mean, how much, yeah.
that's,
I don't know, I mean, isn't it just the design and then you tell them what to do and?
right, well, so some of the design, I mean, there's really nothing that's been designed for that. I mean, we could easily tell them, point on a photo and say, dig from here and place
It
there.
kind of be on-site
Yeah,
management.
but,
Maybe just give us a quote or something that we can work with.
yeah, I think.
Sounds like 20%. So, I
I
mean,
think
so here you're talking
20%.
I think
225,000.
I think 10% is
Yeah.
enough to cover. Again, it's a pretty quick,
Yeah,
up to
quick build.
10%.
So what would, we'd be considering tonight, what, 502,000 plus 20%?
Plus
10.
20, plus 20.
Please.
Settle down. Rest.
Is it 10% on everything?
Trying to get the numbers.
No, just
correct here.
525,
Just
I
on the
think.
truck
525.
line.
Yeah.
Okay.
20
Because that also
205.
does involve some coordination with the state, because we're reactivating our permit, and I feel like you're going to want some
Some
oversight of that.
Yep.
525 covered?
Yep.
525.
So-
205 for moving the sand, 300 for sandbags, and 20 to manage the moving sand project.
Can we just simplify? If I make a motion that we install $300,000 of sandbags as described by by Coastal Science Engineering. In addition, another $225,000 for the shoal transfer work.
Second.
Other questions? Douglas, good direction, you good?
Yeah.
And I'd just like to reiterate that if any individuals or, regimes want to do additional bags, that the city's fully supporting that, and we'll try to coordinate it, without compromising the city's scope. So,
The one thing there's $1.5 million of state funding or state money for beach nourishment or beach management. My understanding is that $1.5 million isn't going to be released until February, but we may be able to put this in as a request that when it is released, we get reimbursed for this amount. I
Right.
don't know the mechanics of it.
Yeah, the other,
But we should at least put this in as a request for our beach
yeah.
management.
So,
and-
so we've been kind of coordinating that to make that request. The other part of this is now, we're talking about potentially that window opening, all on the heels of having bids for a major renourishment project. So we're going to have plenty of need to be able to show the state that
I just keep putting requests in because the more they get,
Yeah.
the more they're put in.
yeah,
So-
and the next time, yeah.
And we
Yeah, I
can
think-
expect every other beach community's probably doing the same.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody's going to have the financial need that we have and that we can show in February.
Yeah.
I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Yeah. John, actually had a note today from our lobbyist, that window opens hopefully this Friday,
Good timing.
and then for a February release, so. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Stephen, thank you. This part of the meeting, being no further business,
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
all those in favor say aye. Aye. Off record on the council meeting at 5:59, we will just move straight into workshop. So again, Stephen, thank you. We're going to move straight in to call this meeting to order and acknowledge that the press and public were duly notified of the meeting in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act. Nicole, you want to do roll call?
Yeah, we're.
Yeah. Hey, guys, we're rocking on to the next meeting. Nicole, you want to do roll call?
Yes.
Thank you.
Wait a minute. Listen,
Okay. We're rocking.
do we have,
We got a quorum.
Councilmember Streetman,
Here.
Councilmember Ward,
Here.
Councilmember Goshen,
Here.
Councilmember Anderson,
here,
Councilmember Pierce, left the room.
Just stepped.
He's here.
Is Councilmember Myers returning?
Doesn't appear.
I don't think so.
Councilmember Hahn, Mayor Powell,
Here.
you do have a quorum?
Thank you.
Those are her son. I think-
Next item is citizens' comments.
Julie Nelson,
Julie, make sure that's on before you get going there.
Is it on?
Yes.
Okay. Julie Nestler, 1722nd. I'm here because I've been asked by a sorry. I've been asked by a citizen to include this letter in my presentation this evening. Mayor, I will ask for your courtesy if this runs a moment past 3 minutes. Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Caitlin Zura, and I am writing you as a mother and someone whose family has personally experienced the critical importance of emergency responders on the Isle of Palms. On May 1st of this year, my son Tanner was the 10-year-old victim of the violent hit-and-run attack while at his school on Sullivan's Island, just a stone's throw away from Isle of Palms. The subject struck 3 people that day, one being Tanner. He was the boy pinned under the car. There were close to 40 children out on the playground, and it was meant to be a mass casualty event. By the grace of God, everyone survived. This event then led to a 5-hour manhunt that spanned across Sullivan's Island. Those hours were every parent's nightmare, but amid the chaos, we saw something remarkable. We saw police officers, firefighters, EMTs, and dispatchers from Isle of Palms, Sullivan's Island, Mount Pleasant, and Charleston County come together with coordination, urgency, and compassion. Their professionalism and courage brought calm when everything felt out of control. And because of their dedication, the subject was caught and the community was made safe again. That day changed my family forever, but it also opened my eyes to how deeply our safety depends upon the people who respond when seconds truly matter. They are the ones who face danger, who protect our children, who serve even when they are exhausted or afraid. And yet, far too often, their work goes unseen or underfunded until tragedy strikes. It's very easy to say that this will never happen here, but I am here to remind you that it most certainly can. I want to encourage City Council to continue and to strengthen its commitment to funding and supporting all of our emergency responders. That means proper staffing, updated equipment, consistent training, and competitive wages. These men and women are not just employees of the town. They are the neighbors, the protectors, and the first hands that reach out in our darkest moments. Investing in them is investing in every family who calls Isle of Palms home. On behalf of my son, my family, and all those who have seen firsthand the difference these responders make, I want to sincerely thank them from the bottom of this mom's heart. I get to still hold and hug my son, Tanner. So these are my words. This is why, as citizens, we implore you to significantly raise first responder compensation. Otherwise, you will see another 150 years of institutional knowledge walk out the door, and we cannot afford to lose that. Thank you.
David Coots.
Mr. Mayor, Council, good evening. Thanks for the chance to make a few comments. I'm David Kuntz, and I'm part of the Board of Directors at Ocean Club, and I live over there with my wife, Linda. We're full-time residents here, and we love ILP. I think the Council has heard just about everything there is to hear regarding the beach erosion and renourishment, but I just want to make a couple points on that. The king tides that we had recently did significant damage to us over here at Ocean Club, and the waves basically washed underneath the garage, as some of you know, and undermined the building, and so the parts of the garage floor collapsed. And we are underway with our permits to repair the garage, but as you can imagine, it's pretty hard to repair a big hole in the garage floor if there's waves underneath it. It's a tall order, and the city has deployed sandbags at Ocean Club and Seascape next door and a lot of places, and we really appreciate that, by the way. Thank you. But I think we're all kind of learning in some of the comments earlier tonight that the sandbags are maybe a little bit more of a Band-Aid approach. They work, but they kind of work, and then they're gone, and then maybe they resurface. And so it's really a Band-Aid approach, doesn't seem to work very long. We've worked with the city, and we're trying to be proactive with our efforts. We're trying to work with any entities out there, Representative Nancy Mace and the state and anybody else that we can that will listen to try to do something about that on our end. But I think we're witnessing here firsthand, all of us, that we kind of don't have much time, and we can't really wait, I don't think, another year to commence the renourishment process. And I realize the permitting goes on forever, but it just keeps getting more expensive, right? And the job keeps getting bigger that has to be done, and so it's a money issue. But the beach, it's an integral part of all of our lives here. It's part of the city, and the tourism, the beach life brings in, of course, is important for the revenue, local economy, and so forth. And we all use the beach in one way or another, and we just really need to preserve it. So not much new to what I'm saying here tonight, but I just want to say thanks, first of all, to the City Council for what you have done, what you're continuing to do. I can see from the meeting tonight you're looking at a lot of different opportunities and options to try to help, and we really appreciate that. And just want to encourage everybody to look long-term at that beach renourishment. Let's see if we can get that underway sooner than later, not burn up all the money on other Band-Aids in the interim, but just really try to push for that. And if we can be of any help, we're here to do that. Thanks very much. Appreciate the chance to say a few words.
That's all.
Thank you, Nicole. No special presentations tonight. Dashboard of City Operations and Short-Term Rental Report. This is in your packet, Douglas.
Yes, just wanted to point out on the dashboard, top right, personnel vacancies. You'll notice that City Hall has none. Very happy to report that we have hired a zoning administrator. Duet Hart is an architect that has moved in from Florida. She's been with us now for about 3 weeks. David Hines is a building official from Pennsylvania. He actually started today and will be assuming that role. And we've hired a deputy administrator, Sean Kuster, who is a retiring colonel in the Army moving from the Columbia area. So very happy to have them coming on board. Police Department has 2 vacancies. Unfortunately, the fire vacancies that's on the dashboard has increased since this was created. We now have 2 firefighter vacancies, plus 3 paramedic vacancies. So we have a total of 5 now in the fire department.
So Douglas, at the end of September, there was 2, and now here we're sitting October, what, the 14th, it's 5. You're saying?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Douglas, do you all do exit interviews to find out why people are leaving?
We do.
Especially at such an alarming rate?
We do.
Is there anything you can tell us?
Well, those interviews are confidential, and we actually haven't done, we have scheduled exit interviews with this most recent group that's going out. So we haven't had those yet, but we do those interviews.
But what's your impression of the reason they're?
So there's definitely a mixed bag. I mean, there are other agencies that are paying higher, clearly. I mean, that's what brought you all to begin the process of the wage and compensation study. That's happening. We happen to have a fair number, well, we have some very important folks that have been with us a long time retiring. We've had some people get out of the industry altogether. So it really is a mixed bag. I think, pay is clearly part of what's happening. And we'll give a quick update on that later in the agenda, but we're working with Evergreen. I'll just give it now since we're talking about it. We're working with Evergreen. Janice has been providing them with all of the updated positions, salaries, kind of repopulating all of the data sets that they had from the last time we did that. They're also getting the information back from the other agencies that they involved with their first go-around, because we have lost people specifically to St. John's, which is the Johns Island District, and to Colleton County recently. We've asked them to include their information as well. So we've broadened the group of competitors that we're kind of working against to draw in talent. So broaden it a little bit. They're telling us that we expect it to be about 3 months till they have a product back to us, but it's underway. And
Is 3 months since it started or 3 months from now?
I think 3 months since they started. Yeah, I think, and they've probably been.
End of year
at-
timeframe, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Are the moves parallel, or are they getting promotions?
Generally parallel,
Okay.
yeah.
Let's apologize for my voice, but you said we lost 3 paramedics.
Yes.
Does that leave us with any?
I think that leaves us with two or three, yeah. Three,
So one per shift?
yeah.
Douglas, do we provide the exit interview information in any form to Evergreen or anyone as part of their analysis?
Yeah, so I have a turnover ratio report that I generate and give to them. And it's just based on their categories of why they're telling us they're leaving. A lot of it is just either pay or other. Right now, we have 10 on the list for 2025. And of that 10, 4 are leaving for pay. So we're under 50%.
And it's optional also if someone does
Correct.
an
They
exit
don't have-
interview.
Sometimes they don't provide me with any.
What kind of participation do we get on exit interviews
It
typically?
depends. It depends on the individual. I have everyone come meet with me because they have to have exit paperwork given to them, like the COBRA information, when they're gonna get their last check. They get that type of a letter from me, and then I ask them if they can participate and answer some of those exit interview questions.
But sort of our high-level takeaway is pay predominantly, and probably distance traveled, commute, that sort of. Okay.
And Douglas or Janice, are we this time looking at, because I know some other agencies pay for, getting a undergraduate or a master's or something. Are we asking Evergreen to see what that is
Yeah.
from a comparability?
Yes, I did. I asked
Okay.
them to include that in this study on top of the compensation. I want to know what incentive pays or certification pays that are out there with other communities.
Okay, thank you. And so, I mean, that'll be end of the year, to your point. Effective 1/1, we've got a cost of living range adjustment of 2.5%, and then a merit where employees are eligible for up to 3, so a 5.5 total, depending on performance and such. So just
Mayor,
a
can
reminder.
I
Yep.
talk about that a second, too? When we were going through the budget process, I know we talked, there was 5.5%, 2.5, I think, cost of living, 3 merit. But we also talked about potentially getting a higher percentage of the merit to the first responders as the rest. And I know the comment was, we can address that at the time. We don't need to address it at budget time. We can address that at the time that the raises are going to go into place. But I don't know that, I think we should have that discussion of how that merit's going to be split up and in between them. But I know we mentioned that at budget time, but I don't know the process because that's not historically how we've done it.
So the idea is to push more to the, I guess,
Yeah,
rungs where they need it.
right. And maybe that's,
Which is-
maybe
yeah.
Douglas, that's what you and your staff and Janice do, is go through that but
I think so generally it's handled by the department head of the department dealing with the raises. I think that, it certainly would not, I don't think it would be bad to give directional kind of information to the department heads about your desires. When it comes to actually doling out percentages to individuals, I think that it starts to get too granular.
No, I'm not
But-
talking about, but I'm
but
saying,
directionally,
if
I
you've
think-
got 3% of our total payroll as merit, I'm saying take a higher percentage of that, put it to all first responder pay, and the rest of it for the remaining admin classifications.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
But you'd have to work that out. I
Yes.
don't know if we want to get involved with it,
Right.
but I said that, we did talk about that at budget time, though. I know that was a discussion topic.
I'd just like to say that it seems like it's a vicious cycle, that there's a shortage of manpower out there to fill these jobs. So every time one municipal entity raises the pay, then everybody else either has to follow or lose people. And so it's a vicious cycle that's going around. I would like to ask that Evergreen make suggestions as to what other enticements we could offer, maybe, that separates us out, differentiates us from just other municipalities. I don't know.
I think Mount Pleasant they've really upped the rungs on their incentive pay. I mean, I think that's something
Yep,
that we don't
they
really
have.
have that kind of a mechanism or lever. And I think we should really, that's a meaningful compensation component that we don't even
Right.
employ right now.
Yeah, we've been hearing that incentives, incentives for different,
Yeah.
that would be beneficial, I think.
They
So
use
we'll
it-
certainly ask them.
They use Evergreen also, right?
Yes, they did, yep.
So you get the same information from studies like that, that could be given to us as well. I think we're going to always have that vicious competitive cycle, though. I know a few years ago, we got out in front of it, and for a while there, we thought, anyway, that we were kind of ahead of the curve a little bit on compensation, even though it's still probably maybe too low. But it doesn't take long for people to catch up and
Catch up, yeah, and it's-
surpass you, and you're going to always have that competitive situation going on out there.
Well, is there something we can do, and I don't know if Janice, maybe you can talk to the chiefs about, but how do we get in front of it instead of having this bubble up the way it's kind of bubbling up and again, we're in kind of a reaction? If there were, it sounds like there might have been some early warnings about this back in the first part of the year that, maybe we could get in front of these things a little bit quicker and try to address them.
Yeah, I can just tell you that we've kind of talked about positioning, where the Isle of Palms would like to be positioned. We certainly, if it's top 30% of our competition, we could kind of create triggers that would say, okay, we're now below a percentile, we need to make an adjustment. Challenge is always going to be the funding and the budgeting to anticipate that. So it could be that we come up with kind of triggers that alert us, and though I think to do that, there would have to be something built in to our budget to tell us, to give us that money if those triggers are met. So it may be, but you're right, it's always been a challenge to our budgeting process is the way it is for a reason, and it doesn't allow a lot of kind of flexibility and nimbleness when this type of stuff happens, so.
I'm sorry, Jimmy.
This has been going on for a long, long, long time. 15 years ago, we were doing the same thing. And then we were playing catch-up, and we would give the fire personnel a big increase and not do anything. Well, I think at that time, it was the police, we gave a big increase. And I brought it up, and some other people brought it up, I'm like, well, what about the fire department? Oh, they're fine. The next year, they weren't fine. And then we just keep doing it over and over and over again. I would like to look at some really proactive solutions to stop the cycle. We have limited resources to keep people, but these first responders, they deserve to be able to feed their families, put food on the table, not worry about the mortgage. I've heard of one firefighter had to sell his car so he could make a mortgage payment. That's a sad state of affairs. And I think it's our duty to look at this proactively and do the best we can for them.
Yeah, thanks. Do we have any room in ATAX dollars, to up the compensation or the reimbursement for wages for public safety? I mean, I look at our calls, or, correct me if I'm wrong, Chief O, I think he's out there, he was, but
He's
a
over there.
lot of our calls are for non-residents. Fire and police, I'm assuming, too. It would just seem to me that there might be, in that big bucket of dollars that we've got in ATAX funds, that we might be able to free up more of those dollars to help offset the labor cost that we have with public safety on this island, and public works, for that matter.
Yeah, I mean, we moved 2.7 million this year.
Yeah.
from
Right, we do a
tourism
lot,
funds.
we do a lot. But that's a really good point, Rusty, and to follow up on that, it's something we might want to talk to our state lobbyists about. Again, going back to freeing up the ATAX dollars from having to pour so much money into tourism promotion and shift some of it legally, get the state house and the legislature to free it up to where we can use it for infrastructure improvements and also for taking care of personnel. Because we don't take care of the personnel, we're not going to have the tourism. And we have, I think most people agree with me here, we have way too much advertising going on. And we need to spend more money on running the city.
Well, we do what the law dictates. We
Right,
give
that's what I'm
30%
saying.
To a marketing organization, and unless at the state level that rate gets lowered or a dollar amount gets capped,
Yeah,
we're bound by that, by law.
that needs to change.
I mean,
agree
I
with
think
that.
an incentive
Agree
to
with
getting it changed is to say we're using it for our first responders. That's usually a good one to start with.
Ready to?
Sure.
Short-term rental dashboard is in your packet. I would just point out, and this may have happened last month, that we talked about the 119, that there's now an asterisk, I think that's 5 asterisks, that explains that to really equate this year's number to last year's number, you have to add 119, and those are the condominiums that used to be individually licensed. They now get one hotel, well, they get 2 hotel licenses.
So should we be looking at units? I mean, I think the intention, the assumption was we were 1-to-1, licensing a unit and whatever. Now, mathematically, this is just, doesn't work. I mean, we've got.
To compare over years?
Well, and we've got no, it's still sitting in the, I guess, the denominator, but we've got 0. Yeah, again, apples to apples, this is a total mismatch. And on a penetration basis for rental properties, I think we're running relatively flat to slightly up, but, if we use it, if we look at it the previous way, we're at 39%, a little over 39%. So,
Saying it another way, I think what you're saying is,
please do, say
You
it
should-
another way.
you should take the 119 out of the totally, because the concentration before, you has 119 licenses, and you had 119 units, it was 100%. Now it's 0 licenses, or say 2, and you have still 119, it's 2%. So the percentage is different. You still have 119 units being rented.
Right.
It's just under 1 license, so you can't divide by 119, we should just come out of there. The number of dwelling units should be reduced by 119.
But do you see a increase in short-term rental licenses in the neighborhoods?
Well, I mean, if you look at the column, and maybe to your point, John, it's called residential parcels, maybe we should pull out commercial condos
Yes.
and other things altogether.
Right.
And I guess I would point out there, in the line, speaking of the line of condominiums, if you look at condos this year, it's 727. That number is about 66 higher than last year at this time. And in talking with Jeannie, our short-term rental coordinator, she has told us that it was discovered that an entire series of condominiums were being rented with one listing. So it was only listed once, it was only showing up on our software once. Come to find out, you could rent it there were 70 units behind that one listing. So that got uncovered at the beginning of this year. So that number's actually up 66. The other ones are very flat, if not down just a little bit. So,
Software's working?
well, I mean, that's an example of where it really didn't work, and we became aware of, how are there,
Oh, in the listing, yeah.
yeah, it's only showing one listing where there was actually,
So we can rectify the data, but we need to recognize that it's not apples to apples last year to this year.
this has been a challenge going back to the beginning of
matter.
time.
What we
And
want to
that's all
know
the asterisks.
is the island stable, or are we being overrun with short-term rentals?
It's insignificantly up. I mean, it's just.
It's
that's
stable.
minor. It's stable.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's
It's pretty
stable.
That's the answer, rather than,
It's
yeah.
not significantly up.
No,
no.
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 So I think what we
If
need to
anything,
do
other
is,
than condos, it's down.
Down,
Yeah,
right.
residential units, it's down very slightly from this time last year.
And
We should
the-
be able to monitor it apples to apples, I guess.
Yeah.
Point, yeah.
and the permanent residents, the homes, the units that are owned as permanent residents has pretty much been stable.
Well, and that we're only getting one, we're not getting that data updated monthly. That we're getting once a year, the county from the data, the data from the county on what's full-time and what's 6%. So that's basically static until a one-time event in the year, and then we update all of that. So that could be changing in the background, and we don't know until we get the data from the
From a
county.
year ago, is it stable?
It's up a little bit.
On the condos.
The,
Yeah.
I mean, if.
4% from last
others
year
are
to,
down a
huh?
little. Yeah.
It's
He said the others are
very
down.
small, but people are turning these second homes into their permanent homes.
Yeah,
Do-
and
do
some
we
of the
know?
second homes are becoming short-term rentals. So we're seeing a decrease in second homes, an increase in short-term rentals, stable, permanent residents.
We're not having a significant increase in short-term rentals. We do not.
Okay.
I think we can agree.
Do we
on
know
that.
how many of these licenses are active? Like,
we've also kind of tried to slice and dice what constitutes active. I mean, we
any
use.
rentals? Some just have a license, just
Well, the
have it.
slice has been by rental income,
Yeah,
anything
we-
under 25,000.
Once a year, we'll kind of produce the debriefing of the year prior, and it shows the number that have a license, but are shown to have almost no rental revenue. So there is a certain category that's in this 1699 that they secure a license, but they do less than $20,000 worth of.
And do you know
So-
what
Airbnb's
percentage
gonna-
that is?
We don't know how much
It's
it is
about
right now.
350 license.
Is that right?
It's a lot of the total.
But roughly 1,300.
Yeah,
Their DNA data is
150
pretty good.
active.
And they got some different numbers than we do, but that's something that's very readily available. And we might want to start, taking a look at that because that is industry produced.
Yeah.
And they've got tools and ways of looking at things and slicing revenue per unit and advertisements, and they
Yeah.
can track a lot more granular than what we can.
Yes, and Rentalscape is doing a lot of that. A lot of it is, they're trying to cipher out the daily rate, they're watching occupancy levels, and they're giving good guesses of all that, but we're getting that through Rentalscape.
And we should have better numbers from the county since they sent out the property tax bills. So we get that data once they send out the property
Yeah.
tax bills.
Yeah,
So
we
that should be
should-
happening this
I
month.
don't know if we
We
want to
do
go
that.
into
I
this
just got
anymore.
mine today.
Deborah, I just have one, this is totally non-related to the licenses so much as, that when they went to the one license and did the hotel license, what does that do to our business license revenues, or how did that all get aggregated? Because there's still a lot of those are individually owned and operated. So how did that license get incorporated in all the revenues that we were capturing? Did we go net neutral, net negative, net positive, or is that something we could follow up with and get an answer to?
Yeah, we can follow up
Yeah.
on that. I
So
think I know
119 went to one.
that, that was part of what the effort was. They got it under one management and ownership regime to get one license to pay less in fees. That was part of.
Pay less than fees.
Yes.
What is that 119? That's a Front Beach.
It's actually the two Front Beach hotels. Yes,
Okay.
Seaside and
And
the
the
Palms.
Okay, and
So
how
they
would
now
that,
have one license for each unit, each.
how would that relate to the Villages and Wild Dunes? Isn't that sort of the same thing? Do they have those individual licenses for those?
Well, they actually created, they are one ownership group now, the Palms and the Seascape.
They operating more
No,
like
no,
a
I'm talking
hotel.
about.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the Villages in.
The
Wild-
villages themselves are all very,
Managed independently.
yeah, independently owned and managed.
And so each of them has a short-term rental license? if they
correct.
do. Okay.
That's
So
correct.
that is different from the two Front Beach?
That's correct.
And what
It
makes
is,
them different?
it's exactly like the Boardwalk Inn. So the Boardwalk Inn is one license, one
One hotel.
ownership, one management, and those two hotels now are operating that way.
So instead of paying 119 base fees, they're paying 2.
That's correct.
But that's the savings, but the revenue. should be the
That's
same.
right. I think there's we did go up on short-term rental license rate fees as well. So I think they're coming out. We'll figure out the savings, but yeah, it's definitely saving
So-
the money.
So the license for a hotel is the same as for a single unit? I mean,
No, the base, the rate is lower per thousand of revenue for a hotel. That, historically, we have kind of, there has been a focus on short-term rental licenses specifically, so that rate gets changed where, we've never really focused on the class of business licenses that a hotel falls in.
okay, so if we have a problem with this 119, then we probably need to look at how we're treating hotels.
Yeah, we could, you will have the ability to adjust, and you have historically adjusted the license rates across the board periodically.
But I think she's just talking about the counts. I mean,
Well, no.
Boardwalk's not in here at 100 and.
That's
Sunrise
Well,
is
right
not
now,
in
I'm
here
talking
at
about the
100.
fees, yeah. But okay, I think we might want to revisit that. But it's not here.
And Douglas, you got departmental reports, any questions there in the packet of department heads, anybody? Moving on. Deborah, you want to take us through financial?
Sure. We have just completed the first quarter of FY '26. We have a total revenue of $3.4 million to a budget of $32 million. So that we've collected about 10% of our revenue goal. Total expenses are at $5.3 million versus the budget of $30 million. So that's about 18% of our total expenditure. General fund, we have collected $1.3 million to the budget of $16 million, so we've collected about 8%, and kind of in line with prior year. Expenses, same thing. We're in line with prior year, spent $3.4 million to the budget of $17 million, so we're at about 20%, and the target is 25%. So we are under that target number. There are some departments that are a little bit over prior year, Public Works and Recreation, just those two are a little bit over where we were last year this time. For our cash balance, we have $54 million between investments and cash, which is up $8 million over last year this time at $46 million. We have $26 million in restricted, which is 48% of the total cash. Our LGIP is $52 million, and it is earning 4.3958, which is $568,000 in interest thus far for these 3 months.
How much? 568?
Yes, sir.
interest income.
That's correct. Our business licenses revenue is a little bit down compared to last year, same time. Just assuming that's probably timing and not as much activity as we had last year. We also just wrapped up, the auditors were here all last week. We wrapped up them being here, providing them with everything they need. They are wrapping up the GASB 96 subscription-based leases. We should be working on the management discussion analysis statements in the upcoming weeks so that they can be here for the November presentation. They are on schedule to do that. I won't go over the fund balance just in the interest of time. It's all here, and this, of course, this is just a statement of kind of where we are with the fund balance and the anticipated expenses. I'm going to jump to our tourism schedules. For the municipal accommodations fees, this month we recorded $375,000 in revenue. That's a 4%. We're at 4% above where we were last year. We have not received any of our quarterly local options tax revenue or the pass-through that normally hits in November. So we should be getting that early part of next month. For hospitality, we reported 96,000 last month, but this year, it looks like this month there was a timing difference. We did do an audit after the last report to see, of the last 2 years, to see if there were any vendors or businesses that were not paying their hospitality tax, and we did discover one in the audit. We have reached out to that company and have notified them that they did miss a month of paying hospitality taxes. Currently, we are kind of flat with prior year. For the beach preservation, it's the same. Is there a question? For beach preservation, it's the same thing. We're at 4% over prior year. And the local option tax, also 4% over prior year. The project worksheets are attached. Please let me know if you have any questions regarding those, but that's all I have.
Questions? Douglas, you want to do a project update?
Yes. The Waterway Boulevard path is progressing nicely.
Thank you, Deborah.
Phases 1 and 1A are, I would say, 90% complete. They are, all of the drainage infrastructure's in, the berms have been installed, the sodding is being put on, and they are scheduled to pave. Was planned for tomorrow. It may be too wet, but they are going to be paved. They're going to be completed by the end of this week with all but punch list items. Phase 4 drainage project, that's Palm Boulevard between 38th and 41st. That is, Thomas & Hutton is working on that through the permitting that's underway, anticipating construction beginning in the first quarter of 2026. The public dock and green space, this is a situation that we reported at public facilities where the restaurant tenants have, we've been meeting with them, and they have expressed a desire to have a commitment on paying for the physical rearrangements that are going to be needed at the parking lot before they agree to a change of that lease. So the staff is working to try to get kind of ballpark estimates of the range of costs and the different types of materials that could be used to make that happen. We're going to be working through the Public Facilities Committee and the tenants to see if there's kind of an agreeable finished budget. And then once we get that worked out, that'll be reported back to council to see if you all have a willingness to proceed with that project. Marina dredging, this is a project where we now have permits in hand. Our challenge there is the the spoil site that we would like to place that material in is off the back of Goat Island. We are aware that work needs to be done to that spoil site, and our engineer has been in contact with the Army Corps of Engineers and the property owner's engineer to come up with a plan of how to make that spoil site available to us. I did have a discussion with their engineer today, and he indicated to me that he did not think that there was any way that this spoil site would be ready this winter. So this is also a project that we're working with adjacent property owners on making this happen. All of their permitting is lagging behind our permitting. So to take advantage of dividing up the mobilization costs and the repairs of that spoil site, this is looking like it really is probably going to go out of this winter and into next winter, unfortunately. The beach, we've just talked pretty extensively about that. I don't know that I have any other updates other than what you all talked about at your 5 o'clock meeting. Yes, I don't have anything to report on the underground power lines. We do have on the SCDOT Palm Boulevard, well, no, not on this project. There is a different project that we have with Charleston County that we probably need to add on to this. This is the sidewalk connection down J.C. Long Boulevard to connect in front of the fire station down to Ocean Boulevard. There's a sidewalk project underway with the county that we're starting to develop the plans for that and the process forward for that. So we'll add that project to this list and start updating you on that.
When do you anticipate that project getting underway?
They haven't even designed it yet, so.
If it's like the 21st Avenue.
Yes, yeah, I would guess a year.
Because it goes right in front of a restaurant,
Yep.
like just a couple of feet.
Well, the sidewalk itself, actually, I think, will connect to the front of that restaurant. So
The sidewalk will connect to the front of the restaurant.
It goes through their parking spaces.
Yeah, they're going to lose like 7 to 9 parking spaces.
Well,
But that is public right away.
yes.
Right.
Yeah, I know that part of their design work is to try to preserve as much parking in there as they can. So I don't know exactly what the counts are, but.
Well, there's some thought about taking a right turn where the sidewalk ends now, before it hits the business, cross on the Oceanside Seabiscuit Cafe, and then continue the sidewalk down that grassy portion, all the way down to Ocean Boulevard. But, I'm talking with some county folks about that right now, if they would consider that. But right now, there are people walking in the street.
Yeah,
It's dangerous. I hate to see the business lose all that parking.
yeah. Well,
Could we replace it with at least parallel parking in front of there, so it's only half of the spaces they lose? Because you
Yeah, and
can
I-
usually get,
yeah, I think that's
One
the goal
parallel,
is to
two.
try to find as many replacement spaces as possible to offset that loss.
yeah. So
And,
just,
and provide the path. I would hope that the path going, that people
Would you consider mentioning it to the county, what I just presented to you?
yeah, I can. I mean, this is a city they are working on our behalf. I mean, I think
Right,
that from
understand.
our perspective, crossing the road, there's a choice there. Is it better to have pedestrians crossing the road again, or is it better you would lose some spaces, but, what's the break?
Where are those pedestrians coming from, though? Aren't they already
That-
having to cross the road? Or not?
They're coming, well, they go to the fire station, they visit, with kids and stuff, go visit the fire station, and a lot of them are walking down from the Acme
Other
Engle.
street.
Yeah, going down the street.
Well, it connects to this sidewalk that's on this
Yeah.
side. I mean, it's on Palm Boulevard on that side. It's how I go to the public safety building, and there, you're on that side. But then the sidewalk just completely runs out.
Yeah, I mean, whenever we have any of these major activities like the bridge run or anything like that, people just stream down that street. So if there's a disconnected sidewalk, it really interferes with things. If that parking is in the public right-of-way the way it is, maybe there's some compromise where the sidewalk could be moved closer to the restaurant to allow the parallel parking
Yeah,
on the
that's
street.
but that is the plan, to take the space that's currently used by pull-in parking,
Yeah.
dedicate part of it to a walking path, and then, I think we were hopeful that you could get pull-in spaces still and make an adjustment.
No, there's not enough room.
Well,
Yeah.
I hate to dominate the conversation, but just one last question. If somebody were to ask me when they think the project would get underway, it's really hard to tell, but you would think.
I would think a
if you had
year.
Quite a few months?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think there's any way it's done before the summer.
Like 60?
60 months?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably not that many months.
Okay, just
And again, the 21st Avenue was
which
Right.
summer?
2 to 3
Yeah,
years from
takes a while for that process.
that.
Yeah, that was 2 years. Well, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
The next is strategic plan policy initiatives. First is livability, discussion of ordinance 2025-07, shark fishing ordinance and guidelines. You've got a updated red line in your
You wanna talk
packet. John, you want?
Yeah, this was just to clarify some language on how the line got out there, that we'd only use traditional rod and reel, not other mechanical mechanisms. So I think the committee was unanimous in approving the language in here, so.
Yeah, I think it was good. So we'll have, this will come for second reading, I think. at,
Yeah, that's right.
October,
Second reading, right.
Douglas, you good with that one?
Yep.
Next item, environmental discussion of beach debris removal contract.
Yes.
This has been an ongoing project.
Yes, this has, and the city went out to, we solicited bids for this work. This was a plan, I think kind of originally hatched in the Environmental Advisory Committee, of moving the trash cans off of the beach. So these are the yellow barrels that are on the beach. They have always been problematic from a standpoint of putting litter on the beach. They can't be covered. They can't have a lid on them and be functional and work with the equipment that we used. So that left open cans out on the beach, birds, wind, and we felt like it was contributing to the litter on the beach. So the plan was developed to move the vast majority of those cans off the beach and have them either closer to the road or just on the backside of the dune, but off the beach. We went out to bid with this plan, and we only got one responsive bidder. We, knowing that wasn't, we generally don't like to engage people if we only have one bid, so we went back out to bid. We contacted every vendor that gave us pricing when we did the commercial garbage debris RFP. All of them indicated that they were not interested in the work. We think the differentiating factor, I think we know the differentiating factor is it requires, because we have, and I think it's about 40 barrels that we wanted to continue to leave on the beach in the most popular area, like the front beach, and a few key busy beach path locations. We wanted to leave some out there. And to do that, it just seemed to kind of run away the other interested, just straight trash collection operations.
They're going to have to roll those, aren't they?
Yes. So this is going to be a mix of some being hand pulled from the beach paths and others being collected from the road. But all of the trash collection will happen from the roadside. So we get away from the yellow machine operating out on the beach, which the machine has been problematic. The process of being out there has been problematic. We've had barrels in the surf. It's just been a hard thing to manage. So unfortunately, we only have the one bid, and we, after trying to get other vendors to bid, we just couldn't get anybody else interested in the work. So you all can consider, the company that did bid is Trident, who is the same company that was the low bidder on the garbage collection contract. They also are the operation that is doing a very similar process on Kiowa, so they have an experience with Kiowa. And we have run there's a little bit of a challenge in figuring out how their bid, they gave us a daily rate in their bid, and the daily rate, I think, is
900. something.
975.
yeah, $9.75 a day. The challenging part of that is figuring out how that measures up with our typical days of collection. And I don't know, Robert, what was your analysis of the cost to do this every day in the season that we have them doing?
Mayor?
That was the difficult part. With the old contract.
Hey, Robert, why don't you come up here if you don't mind, please?
Well, that was the 156, correct, Robert? So the 156,000 is if they did it every day, that's in our,
It's actually based on the 160 days, I believe, of service.
okay, so 160 days at 975 is 156,000.
Right.
But I think in our experience, we've never run them the full 160 days.
Yeah, excuse me. That is,
Current.
currently,
Yeah.
it's not 160 days. So if you compare the two, I believe our last contractor was like $741 a day versus was it nine?
950 or something.
950,
975.
yeah.
But the difference is, what's the difference on a daily basis? 975 to
41, I believe,
775?
somewhere
Okay, so
in there.
$200 a day or something
Yeah,
like that.
and this frequency, it's more frequent
Yeah,
now,
okay.
so that's why you'll see that.
Yeah.
Don't they have a lot more resources to draw on to
Yes.
this particular?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the operation we currently use is one person, 1.5 kind of ratty machines. You know, it has not been consistent, it's not been smooth, it's been a struggle for the staff. So I think from our perspective, to go to a fully, stood up,
Yeah.
equipped, fully
Yeah.
equipped subcontractor would be a good move, but we have this kind of issue of we only have one bidder. We generally don't like to award work with one bid, but in this situation, I don't know that there's anything else that we could do other than proceed with the one bid, which seems to fall kind of close to being in line with what we thought it would be and what we budgeted. The only other option would be to completely eliminate the beach side, the part that is causing the pulling. You know, we could go to an arrangement like Sullivan's Island has, where it's only cans right on the beach. And we think that if we only had, I'm sorry,
What?
Street, yeah.
if we only had cans right on the street, we believe that there would be more competition in the bidding. But, I think that would be a challenging arrangement too.
Wouldn't that increase litter on the beach?
Potentially.
Potentially, yeah.
I think pulling them back so far, though, on the non-popular, I mean, it's not increased litter on the beach.
That's correct.
Right.
Yeah, we kind of did pilot studies about, and we didn't see a marketed increase in the amount of litter.
Well, what
That's
if,
surprising.
what if we pull out Front Beach as a separate area? We're talking about Front Beach, which we may want to have more intense collection, and then the rest of the island. Certainly cans on the curb for them.
I think we talked about that. I think logistically, having somebody come out for 40 cans to pull, yeah, you're not, you're not.
Yeah.
Right.
It would be hard to get two people to come out.
Yeah, and I didn't know if there was another way to do it.
And Front Beach is the same situation. You have some that are on the beach, some that are in the parking lot, some are street side. So you would need that same type of contractor to do all of that.
Okay. And Trident is doing our garbage
Our
collection now?
commercial, yeah, our commercial dumpsters.
Could we just modify our current contract to include this?
Yes, how we engage them contractually we'll work that out, but that would be a process. I mean, we could do it that way, but before we do that, we want council to vote yea or nay on doing it. And I see now, I thought, I had an email from Robert that explains the frequency of past years and the cost and our budget and lays that out. And I see now, I didn't put that in the packet, so I apologize for that. But, so we will have,
Council.
yeah, the council packet, that analysis of what we think it will cost.
You support it, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Because
And I,
otherwise it's Robert pulling those cables.
I would just suggest that I know when competitors know that there's an entity that's already in place in a municipality and it's maybe a difficult project for them, they will back off because they will not be as efficient as somebody that's already here.
Right.
So if you think the numbers are reasonable, it sounds reasonable to me.
Yeah, I do.
So we'll vote on this.
Yeah, that'll be in your
At the end of the
packet, and I'll be sure to include the historical information for your benefit, too.
Yeah, thank you, Robert.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you.
Sorry to put you on the spot.
He loves it.
Sorry, not
Very used to it.
Our last item is discussion of ATAX grant award to the Lutheran Retreat Center. There's a memo in your packet. Douglas?
Yes, so this came through the ATAX committee. They have recommended that you will approve this expenditure of ATAX grant. It would provide help to them in resurfacing the parking lot at the Lutheran Retreat Center. It's in bad condition. I think the ATAX committee felt like it's a very prominent, visible part of the island, and it would be certainly is a establishment that sees a lot of visitation, and they gave a compelling presentation that people that stay there frequently come back and revisit the island. So they thought that this would be a good use of those funds.
Plus, after Hugo, that was City Hall and police station and fire station and everything. Was all that, everything, but they were gracious enough to, Corman Bunch approached them about it before the storm, and they said, sure, and lo and behold, it happened. So we met there every night.
And it's church groups, right? I mean,
Yes,
they're
primarily
not-
it's church groups.
Yeah, they're not making money on it. They're providing I think, a service, a really
it's a
nice
five-
service for.
But I think
Yeah.
Chief and Chief, didn't they allow us housing there when we've had folks on site for cleanup, storm, whatever's been going, so, yeah.
Yeah,
They've been
they're
good
partners.
It's really
Yeah.
beneficial.
That's what I said.
Oh, yeah, partner.
Yeah.
No further business?
Then,
Motion
motion
to
to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?